Hello, good evening, leaders. Thank you very much for joining us again for our second day and for the African Emerging Leaders Network, Liberia chapter and summit. And you are all welcome. And thank God that we are all here to listen to our speaker for today. So I want to say you are all welcome. And my name is Ambassador Daniel Gowo, the host, National Director for the Liberia chapter. So I want to say you are all welcome. And yesterday was our day two, and day one rather. Then we listened to and and one of our speaker from Liberia and Ambassador Kekulachi Mova. And Ambassador spoke on visionary thinking and leaders from Africa or young leader. I hope you are thinking beyond the future. Yes, because you have to know what you want to do in the future. You have to know what you want to become and not just to rely on government. And I learned one thing from our conference in August from Coach Morgan, and he said that we shouldn't blame government because young leaders in Africa or young people are blaming government for not maybe seeking job or going to school. But he said that we shouldn't blame government. We ourselves should work on ourselves to know what we want. So if you have a visionary thinking as young leader, you're gonna know what you want to do in the future. You're gonna know if you want to open a company after your university education. So you have to have that visionary thinking that, and one day you won't blame government and you won't blame your father or your uncle or your aunt and for being poor. So I want to say you are all welcome to day two. It's gonna be great, and I want to say happy birthday to Lila Chiomaka Oroko, and I want to say happy birthday, the Chief Growth Officer for the African Emerging Leaders Network. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you all for joining us and from around the world. I want to say thank you. You are all welcome. And I'm going to invite one of our powerful and young lady and in person of Love and George to do a special remark. You are welcome, Lovely.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Daniel. It's good to be with you here tonight. How is Liberia today?
Yeah, everything is okay. We are all doing good.
All right. Thank you so much for everything. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm also excited to be joining the Africa Emerging Leaders Network Liberia chapter. You guys have been so awesome, and I want to use this medium to appreciate every one of you. My name is Lovely George, and I'm the program director of the Africa Emerging Leaders Network. And I want to say thank you so much to all the executive of African Emerging Leaders Network. It's a great privilege to be here today, and I don't take the opportunity for granted. When it comes to Africa, I'm one passionate person who solely believe in our land and in our continent, Africa. Africa is a very large continent, and it's something to be very much happy about and also be very proud of being an African woman. I want to say thank you so much to the body of the Liberia chapter of African Emerging Leaders Network. You all has been so amazing. From the beginning of this program to this moment, it's been mind blowing. It's been transforming. It's been impactful and it's been so encouraging. One of the joyful things is to watch the young people, especially the young people in Africa, coming together to think about the way forward. Just like your director has said, the country director to Liberia has said that we don't rely to the government. We do not keep on waiting for the government to do what is best for us. Rather, we take the free steps we are supposed to take, perform, put up the effort we had to put, and at the same time, watch out how it plays. But one of the good thing is this: African has been blessed with so much good and powerful people who can transform the world wherever they find themselves. So when people talk about limitations, I said the limitations start from your mind. Do not feel limited. Do not feel that you cannot do it. Do not feel that maybe because you've not been given all the resources you should be given, that you will not be able to change the world. And as African person, you have to start from somewhere. Before I continue, it's just going to be a very short time with you here, and I will leave the stage for the speaker of today. On behalf of our president, the president of African Emerging Leaders Network, in the person of Mr. Precious Chukwuemeka Nwosu, and the vice president, Ms. Ikechenobi Covenant, I want to thank all of you for coming here today. It's a great privilege to serve. It's an opportunity for us all to know that we've not been limited because of where we're coming from. We shouldn't feel limited. Now, coming together to pull up Africa Emerging Leaders Network, it's a thought, or should I say, a vision that our president got. He bettered this vision to bring all the youths from different continents of different countries of African continent and empower them. Then giving us the privilege to serve and see the much more things we can do as an African person. You're serving in your country just like we have other people in Ghana, Cameroon, Liberia, Nigeria, and every other places. People are putting up their efforts to make sure that this vision is being circulated. Remember, we are running with one goal, and the goal is to make sure that we all embodies the uniqueness of an African person and make sure we use those things we have, the gifts we have as an African person, to empower the next person within us. And by so doing, the vision of our founding fathers will not be dead. Remember, you're here today, not because you came to see anybody's faces, and or probably because you don't have any important thing you're doing with your life. You're here because you want to learn, you want to understand, and you want to also grow yourself more to be able to, transform the world just like we are doing today. Ambassador Daniel here, the director to the Liberia chapter, is really doing a great job, and with his teams and executive members putting up this event together, they are transforming the world. They have sought out the speakers from different countries to make sure that they give you the best. So the best thing you're going to do for yourself as a youth, as a young person in Africa, is to make sure that you stay tuned to the learning. Remember that when you stop learning, you start dying. The reason there's been one circulating proverb that says when you want to hide something from an African person, hide it inside a book. That is to say that those people who made those quotes really know that there is a knowledge inside a book. There is a powerful tool inside the knowledge. So do not run away from knowledges. Always be ready to learn. Get involved. I know sometimes some people will be like, oh, what am I going to benefit? What you're going to benefit is going to be very much more powerful. That even your future self will be so grateful that you attended the African Emerging Leaders Conference, Liberia chapter. Please stay here with us. Our vision is just to make sure that Africa recover that uniqueness we've been known with, the power inside of us. And it begins with us, the youth. If you know the future belongs to the youth, and that is the reason why we are fighting so hard to make sure that we elaborate, we educate, and also let you know the deep or the deeper things about the African heritage. Please do not be distracted. If you have anyone you would want to invite for this program, copy out the link and invite them. Let them come, join you, and you know you're already impacting someone by bringing them into this place. We have brought in speakers, people who are so powerful, people who are so knowledgeable in their field, people who has transformed life, people who has won an award in one place or the other for the transformation they've brought into African continent. Please, it is an opportunity for you to learn. So these kind of programs are something that somebody will say pay for it, but you're not paying for it. It's free of charge. That is because our president, Mr. Precious Chukwemeka, wants to got this vision with clarity. And today we are making it happen. And today, the directors and the ambassadors in other countries are making this vision happen. We are giving you this platform for free. And I hope that you stay tuned, learn from the speakers, and go out there to use these knowledges to transform your life in your workplace, in your business, in your career, in your vocation, and also in your family. Remember, as an African person, you have a uniqueness in you and you're powerful. So please don't be limited to where you're coming from. Join programs like this and learn the deeper things about African heritage, the power inside of you, and the uniqueness of how you're being created. Thank you so very much. As we're handing the stage over to the director of the African Emerging Leaders Network Liberia chapter, who has been putting so much effort to make sure that this program is very powerful what we're doing out there. We Africa is very, very much to is very privileged to have a young person transform African continent. We are glad for doing this. I am sending my message all the way from Nigeria. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. I believe that many people Director of Africa Emerging Leaders Network. Once again, President and all the Executive of Africa Emerging Leaders Network. God bless you all, and please stay tuned to the program. All right, Mr. Daniel, please, you can go ahead and have the stage for yourself. Mr. Daniel, we are having breaking transmission. Please, if you can hear me clearly, you can take over the stage while I step down. All right, thank you, everyone. Please, it seems our director is having some kind of break in transmission. And I know you can hear me. I know you're excited to be here today. Please, I am so, so, so excited. And I'll be staying from the beginning of this program. I am also here to learn. We are all here to learn. We are all pushing to make sure we learn. So please do not you take this opportunity for granted. You've been given this opportunity to do exploit. You've been given it to learn. You've been given it to do powerful things for yourself. So please do not forget that you're here for the knowledge. You're here to learn. You're here to build yourself. And you're here to, carry up those knowledges, go into the world and transform people around you. That is why we've brought these programs to you. Make sure you stay tuned. Remain committed to your communities, the Africa Emerging Leaders Liberia chapter, the Liberia community. Please remain committed because there are so many things we will be doing. Welcome back to this page and thank you so much. It's good to hear.
Thank you so much. And Loving Yours is our program director, and I want to say thank you for your special remark. Thank you so much, Loving. And tonight, last night for day one, and we have Ambassador Kekulachi Moba from Liberia, who spoke to us on the theme visionary thinking. And I hope we all have that visionary thinking as young leaders and to transform in Africa. And because this summit is not only about Liberia, but it's all about Africa and where we want to build that bridges that connects everyone, every young leaders within Africa. So I want to say thank you, and Madam Loving, thank you so much. Tonight, I know everyone want to see our speaker for tonight. For tonight, we have and Madam Julie Wemoko, and Madam Julie is liaison officer for the National Children Youth Records Organization, and Madam Julie also holds a lot of award, and she also holds a BA of honor in psychology, and also she also studies sociology, and which is a very very beautiful and social science courses. And Malan Julie is also among young and women in South Africa who is representing young leader at the United Nations. And so today our leader, our speaker is no one else but Malan Julie Ann Wabomoko. You are welcome, Mama.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so excited to be here. I don't know if you can hear me. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Good evening to Liberia. Good evening. To all the speaker before me just yesterday. What an amazing speaker. And then just today as well. So good evening as well to everyone that's listening to me now. My goodness, our speaker today, our MC, uh, Evelyn George, you will forgive me for not using your leadership title, leader. What an amazing opening as well. So I'm really excited to be speaking tonight and hopefully addressing the camaraderies and fellow leaders within our network. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much as well, our National Director, Ambassador. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to be learning together today and to actually be contributing positively towards the conversation that we are having towards African emerging leaders. So I'm really excited to be part of this summit, which is day 2. I'm very excited. So we will be talking tonight about basically being born for such a time as this. I have caught the message that, hey, the talk was on visionary thinking last night. And so I just want to say that we are going to be talking on actually being born for such a time as this. And this is a topic that I am extremely passionate about in my work, to say that we are actually born for such a time as this. And because we are born for such a time as this, we need to take charge. As young leaders, we need to take charge. Whether you're young or old, we need to take charge of what is happening within our countries. And I am excited to be having this conversation with you. And so, leaders, where I'm coming from is South Africa, and we have had the same conversations towards, what is visionary leadership. And it is actually also about looking at yourself and realizing that you are born for such a time as this. And so in the chat box, I love interaction. In the chat box, if you are attending with us, please do write, I am born for such a time as this. I am born for such a time as this. I am born for such a time as this. Please do write that down, and then we will continue with our notes. So I am going to be talking about being born for such a time as this, and actually looking at the fact that when you're born and when you recognize that you're born for such a time as this, then there is something that you actually need to play. And you have to be a role player, you have to be a decision maker in your spheres of influence, right? And so as I'm speaking, please type that, hey, I am born for such a time as this. Blow up that chat box. Yes, thank you. I already see one comment on the chat box. I am born for such a time as this, right? We know that we are supposed to be visionary thinking in whatever that we do. And so a key point is knowing that you are born for such a time as this. Leaders, it is time that you decide on how you're going to move forward. It is not the time for you to believe that you have to wait on the government, something that our national director mentioned, to say that we don't want to be waiting on the government, we don't want to be blaming, pointing fingers, but we actually want to take charge of our lives. And taking charge of our lives is about visionary thinking. And so you are born for such a time as this. And when I say you are born for such a time as this, I also mean that you must also take a look at some of the resources that you have within your disposal, right? And so at the time when I was a student, and that is just light years. When I was a student, we would see that, I had Wi-Fi, I had access to Wi-Fi. I have a speaking capability. I have a platforms like YouTube, platforms like TikTok, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, platforms where I could actually give talks. And so those are the platforms that I used, right? So what are the resources that you have, leaders? What are the resources that you have? And I'm going to be addressing each and every one of you as leaders, because in all of you lies a leader, a strong, powerful leader who can change the world. Maybe not change the whole world, but change your own world, change your own sphere of influence. And each and every single one of us has a sphere of influence. So what resources do you have? And how can you use those resources to build for the future? Leaders, if we are going to be talking about visionary leadership, we will have to talk about taking steps, deliberate steps, intentional steps, precise and accurate steps into actually making sure that we are building for the future. We are not building for this generation. We are not even building for hand to mouth. We are building for the next generation. And I love what our forefathers have actually said, to say, hey, let us have leaders. Let us have emerging leaders, in our continent. Let us have emerging leaders in Liberia, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Ghana. All of this is basically to make sure that we have people who are thinking visionary, people who are building for the future. And so a good question that I would like to ask us tonight, as we are going to be reflecting on what kind of a leader we are and what steps are we taking practically to be a visionary leader, is how are we building for the future? How are we building for the future? Leaders, we need impact. We don't need influence today. We need impact. We need something that will last. And so when we are building something today in your leadership, make sure that you use a leadership style that shows that you actually want whatever you're building to last even for generations, even after you're gone, right? I love what our leaders said, Loveline George, to say that, hey, we want to actually, our goal here is to embody the power, the creativity, the zeal, and, of just being African. And in that is phenomenal. In that is phenomenal. But we need to understand what visionary leadership is, and we need to understand how we can build for the future. And so that is one thing that I am really, really pressing on, building for the future. And we are going to be talking, how then do we build our communities, our families, and even our countries for the future? How do we build Africa for the future? And we're going to start with family, right? Family, when we look at family, we need to start thinking, how do we build for the future in terms of family? And this will shock you, leaders, but I believe that a leader is first a leader at their homes. It is in the kitchen, it is in the dining room, it is at home where you are a leader first, right? And whatever family setting you have, whether it is a nuclear family, whether it is, a structured family, whether it is an extended family, whether it is a blended family, whatever family setting that you have, you can actually build peace within your circle, so that now you're building for the future, right? And it starts with us building you for unity, building for unity, and literally stepping on and leaning on our strengths as leaders to say that our families are going to be strong families, are going to be healthy families. Leaders, how are we building happy and healthy families? How are we building healthy and happy families? This is an important question. As a visionary leader, before you think of the community, before you think of even the country, Liberia, you have to start thinking about your own family. You have to start thinking about the structure that you're born into, your guardians, the family, either family by blood or family by association. But how are you leading that family, building it up for the future? We do not need young ones who are going to be growing up who do not understand who they are. As an African, people who do not understand who they are as Africans. That's not what we are looking for. We are looking for people who know who they are, who know what their role is, and who can actually do better, right? We want mothers and fathers who are resilient and adaptive. And so when we speak about visionary leadership, we are saying we envision stronger families. And as leaders, as emerging leaders, we need to build stronger families. We need to build healthier families. We need to build happier families. How are you doing in terms of your mental health as a family? How are you striving to make sure that as a family, you are doing well? That nobody is being undermined in the family, that the father is not treated like the ATM and the mother is not treated like a nanny. How are you making sure that families, structures, family is the basic unit of every society? When we break up families, we are breaking a society as a whole. And so I speak about this even at a global scale, even at a continental scale, to say that we need to have visionary leaders even in the family structures. And so how are we building leaders at the family structures? And then I'm going to be moving on to say, okay, now we've built families, how are we then building our communities? Leaders, if we are going to have visionary thinking, if we are going to have visionary thinking, we need to look at how we are building our communities for the future. Our are our communities adaptable? Are we innovative in our communities, or are we still solving things the old way that it used to be? Now, I am not very learned in terms of villages in Liberia. You will pardon me for that. But in South Africa, we still have quite a lot of villages, and what happens there will shock you. Will shock you. We have developing villages, but we also have villages that are still behind in terms of technology and development. And so, as young people, we've come together and we have said, hey, as leaders, how are we building our communities forward, right? And so, what we do is we have awareness campaigns, we have peace building campaigns and activities to say that we want to move forward, we want to move our communities forward, right? Do we have the necessary facilities in our communities to help us to strive for better, right? And so those are some of the things that we need to look for. Those are some of the things that we need to look at. And so leaders, I want you to now ask yourself, after having asked yourself, how am I building my family for the future? Now ask yourself, how am I building my community for the future? Do we have agriculture in our communities? Do we have resources? What are we doing with our land resources? Do we have empty piece of land that can be used productively? What are we doing with what we have? One of the things that I spoke about was, hey, we need to look at what we have and we need to build upon what we have. And so building on what we have is saying, hey, this is what I have within my community. How can I use this to make sure that we can go higher, that we can do more as a community and even as a country, right? So there is so much that can be done. And in doing this, in South Africa, we call it Ubuntu. In South Africa, we call it Ubuntu. And basically that Ubuntu means that, Ubuntu basically means that I am because you are. And that basically means that as I am helping building my community, that I am also helping building my own self, right? And so when we talk about, embracing, embodying the power, the zeal, the creativity, and the innovation that comes with being African, we also need to look at how we are building our communities for the future. Do we have agriculture? Agriculture is a big part of our future. Are we building agricultural facilities, tools, machines? Are we going that route? What are we doing to build our communities for the future? And the other thing that I wanted us to talk about is how are we building our communities? How are we building our nation for the future? And so you will agree with me. There is no country at all without any issues. If there's a country without any issues, it means that the people are usually ignorant. Every country has issues. Every area has issues. But as Africans, there are so many things that we can do to show and embody our culture. And our culture is creative. Our culture is creative. As African people, I mean, look at what you guys have done in Liberia. You have done so many wonderful things that have put Africa on the map. When I was doing my research on Liberia, I was so amazed. The resilience, how you guys are so adaptive. My goodness, I was like, if we had that in South Africa, we would go way, way, way beyond, right? And so this is all about us using what we have in our country. What do we have that we can use, right? And so today, as leaders, we are not going to say that, we have leaders who do not know what resources they have within their country. If we are going to go visionary thinking, if we are going to build for the future, we are not going to say that we do not know what our nation is facing, right? We need to be peace builders in our nation. And being peace builders starts with knowing what our nation has. And so I want you all to say, I am born for such a time as this. Please repeat that. I am born for such a time as this on the chat box because we need to remember those words, right? I am born for such a time as this. I am born for such a time as this. Leaders, please type it in the chat box. Let's keep the ball rolling. And then we also need to talk about what we are going to do and our influence within our countries. We need young people who are passionate about being influential in the marketplace, right? And so I love what our leaders said. I think it was our national director, ambassador, who said, that we need to actually start thinking about jobs, right? About creating jobs. And so we need to start thinking about that. How do we create jobs within our nation? And we can bring in technology. We can bring in technology. We can bring in arts and crafts. We can bring in so many things that can help us to understand how we can bring different strategies, different tools, different methodologies together to build our communities, right? So when we build our nation, I love this. I am born for such a time as this. I am born for such a time as this. I am born for such a time as this. I am loving the engagement. I am loving the engagement, right? So we need to talk about the fact that when we talk about the marketplace, we are talking about business, right? And so we need young people who can strive for business. And remember what I said? I said we start with what we have, right? And so I started on YouTube when I started, and this is just for nation building. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk on YouTube. I'm going to use my normal phone. I have access at school to Wi-Fi. So I'm going to sit, I'm going to open the curtains in my house, in my apartment, I mean, during the school time. And I'm going to literally just sit and speak on the things that I'm passionate about. And that was what I had. Those were the resources I had. It was a phone. I didn't have good lighting. I had to wait on the days when it was hot. And I would open the curtains, and that was it. I did not have, oh my goodness. I just had a phone and Wi-Fi. And I decided this is what I'm going to do with the little that I have, right? And the messages are coming across, right? So what you have, leaders, you can use it to make sure that you go into the marketplace. There are so many things. There are so many things that you can do with what you have, but you need to be aware. And so, leaders, I want you, as I'm speaking, I want you to write down, what do I have access to? Some of you have an amazing network and you're not using the network that you have. You have incredible speakers. You know incredible speakers. You know incredible people who can come and facilitate change within your communities. Use that to your advantage, right? Use what you have to get to the place where you're not, right? And then the other thing is, okay, so we spoke about marketplace. Now let's talk about corporate. We need people who are going to strive to do well in corporate. Not all of us are going to be business people, but we need people who are going to do well in corporate. And when I say do well in corporate, I mean that we need people who are going to build big companies, people are going to be part of the workforce, the white collar, right, the blue collars, people who are going to be there making sure that things run smoothly, whether it's oil in the different industries, right? Be it finance, we need young people in finance. We need people in finance, and you are born for such a time as this. You are born to go into finance. You are born to go into technology and AI. You are born to go into science and innovation. You are born to go into agriculture, right? You are born to go into education. We need, I mean, in education, teaching is not just about, it's not just about taking um a book and reading it to the learners. It's about building thought leaders. It is about building people who have the capacity to think critically. And so, even that is a sector that we need. If we are building for the future, those are the type of people that we need. We need people in that sector as well, which is a very sensitive sector, right? We need people everywhere. And so, be a leader in your sphere. Be a leader in your family, be a leader in your community, be a leader in as well as in your country, right? And so in these three things, be a leader in your family, be a leader in your community, be a leader in your nation. And there are aspects where you can be a leader. Now, be a leader in the marketplace, be a leader in the corporate space, be a leader in governance and in policies, right? If we are going to need leaders, strong leaders, we must not be ignorant in terms of what goes on in our countries at government level, national level, at policy level. How many of us leaders have been part of petitions? How many of us leaders have been part of policy making? How many of us have submitted amendments to parliament? Most of us don't even know how these things go. But we need leaders, young leaders. We need emerging leaders who are going to be part of this, who are going to say, hey, when it comes to the education sector, we want to understand how funding is done. We want to understand how money moves from the government to the municipality to wherever we are, right? And all of these things are things that can be preoccupied by us as leaders. You have the capacity. I have the capacity. Listen, Africa is ours and it is ours for the taking, but we have to be visionary in our thinking. And it starts with us saying, hey, I am born for such a time as this. You were not born, there's no mistake that you were born in this generation, not in the previous one, and not in the next one, if there be a next one, right? It's not a mistake that you were born in this generation. You were born in this generation because there is something inside of you You have an asset. You are an asset that can be used to better this generation. And if you are going to not be a visionary leader, then you are robbing us of the potential, of the gifts and the talents and the critical thinking and the thoughts and the ideas that you have within yourself. You are capable. You are capable. Wherever you are, you need to know that you are capable of doing absolutely amazing in the family, in the community, in the nation. You are capable of doing amazing things when it comes to technology and AI. You have the ability to move and shake mountains in the education sector. You have the ability to get involved in agriculture and shape what we know as food supply today. Leaders, you have the ability, the capability in terms of the oil and mining industry. You have the capability to do absolutely amazing there. But you need to own up to this. And you need to say, hey, I am born for such a time as this, and I am a visionary leader. And so we cannot always say that we are emerging. At some point, we have to emerge. At some point we have to emerge, right? And it starts with us thinking that, hey, um we can actually do this, right? I love what is happening in the chat box, because when you're conversating with people, our leader here, David, I love this, to say surely we should use what we have in Liberia, right? So use what you have to build and to go where you want to be, where you're not yet there, right? And in so doing, you will embody the power, the creativity, the zeal, the innovation that comes with being an African. My name is Jubilee Wombo, and I am an African. I'm not sure if, leader, we will need to open up for questions, but that was me to say that, hey, we are born for such a time as this as leaders. Let us not forsake this. Let us not forsake this. We are born for such a time as this, and we can do great and amazing things. I thank you very much, leaders, and I will just wait to hear for directions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and Miss Shuri. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
uh, I'm honored to have you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And leaders, we have to connect to this continent. We have more to do. We have more to do. Africa
Yes.
still have more to do. How? Okay, I think we have some questions within the chat box. How can one cultivate a visionary mindset? Okay, Madam Judy, can you see that question? Yes, I think you can answer that.
Okay. Yes, leader. Thank you very much for the question. Our leader Emmanuel. Okay, how can one cultivate a visionary mindset in a chaotic and complex society that youth are supported by the government? Um, this is such a loaded question. It is very loaded. Um, but first of all, having a visionary mindset is about building for the future, like I said. And so when we are building for the future, we are not just looking at what is happening now, but we are also looking for the future. We are looking at what we can do for the future. And so how we can actually, do this in a chaotic society is by putting up our strength, our vision, and being determined to move forward. If we cannot get government funding, what type of funding can we get? Right? And so we can try to see how are NGOs and NPOs moving around, and how can we do that to get funding to go further. Again, what do you have? Right? If you don't have government funding, do you have NPO support? Do you have networks like this where we are mobilizing leaders for change? Right? So there is so much that you can use, even though you do not have funding as yet. right? There is so much that you can use, even though you do not have funding as yet. And I truly believe that when we are building this, we are actually going to do so much and we're going to win. It takes creativity, my leaders. I'm not going to lie to you. It takes creativity and it takes innovation to move from the chaos to building something that is long lasting for the future generations. But we have to do it. Remove all distractions, be a visionary thinker, and build for the future. I hope I answered the question. My leader? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate.
Thank you.
And we hope to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And we should have and hear from our vice president for the African Emerging Leaders Network. But we're gonna hear from her tomorrow. So and we are honored to have and leader Julie for tonight. It was great. Thank you so much, leader. We appreciate. And so tomorrow, I want you to share the link. And we're going to be having our last day of the summit. And we're going to have Coach Market as one of our speakers. So you need to share the link with your family members, and share the link on your social media platform so that tomorrow is going to be great. Tomorrow is going to be actually great because we are going to have the land queen for Nigeria here and Coach Morgan. So and share the video and encourage your young leader and to our website account, and you can join us that we all learn together so that we all can build this bridge that will connect Africa. So and thank you so much, leader, and for being with us tonight. I want to say thank you. Thank you for the time. And so you left your comfortable bed to watch. Thank you so much. And